I didn't know it was bad. In fact, I only found out that it was bad for me.
Nick, how did you find carnivore?
Well, the short version is I've been doing carnivore for about 70 days right now. And the long version is I've been kind of searching and trying to find out what it means to be healthy once in my life for about the past 6 years. So just to get a little backstory is that, I'm originally from America and I moved to Thailand in 2014. And at that time, I was eating the standard American diet. I was, you know, I guess you'd say obese, right? Just kind of living my life, doing things, have a lot of stressors, eat uh, whatever foods I would be eating would be like out of stress, right? And so trying to, stress eating, things like that. And when I moved to Thailand, life changes, right? You move to a foreign country, and all of a sudden your world is upside down, and you're trying to make sense of things. And so when I was back home at that time, right before I moved here, I'm originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, in the United States, Northwest Pennsylvania. And I was eating my mom's home cooking. We'd go out to eat. We'd eat lots of nice foods, all these things. It was great. But then once coming to Thailand, when we're doing new things and with new friendships here and going out to eat and everything, it was a whirlwind, right? But one thing that to kind of like put perspective is that I was 108 kilos, which is about 240 pounds when I first moved to Thailand. So that was in about 2014. And right away, like I think as most people do when they move to a new place, you try new foods and everything, but then you start to kind of find your way. And for me, right away, I started to kind of lose some weight. I was walking more, number one, around the city, just exploring, eating new foods. I tried to get into some routines or habits, healthy habits, and I moved here to become a teacher. So actually, in America, I went to school for landscape architecture. So I was a landscape architect, an urban planner, and then when I decided to move to Thailand, I became a teacher, right? And so even with that being said, is all of a sudden now I need to wear a shirt and a tie, and I need to wear nice pants. And coming to Thailand as a foreigner, clothes don't fit as well, right? And so Thai people are generally smaller, I'd say, than Western. And basically, I soon found myself realizing, okay, I need to lose some weight, right? Like in America, it was like kind of accepted, or like at least people would say, you don't look fat, you look healthy, or you look happy, right? I was like, well, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm overweight, right? It's not good, right? And so quickly, I lost some weight, pretty quickly, moving here. And when I moved here because I was pursuing a relationship long distance. So, who is now my wife? We were like getting to know each other long distance. And when I moved here and we start doing things together, she's generally healthier than I am. She, trying to encourage me to eat healthy foods and exercise more and all these things. And so we started dating, and then we did get married. I'd say about I think it was about 9 months later. It was like roughly a year to 9 months. And even from that point, when we got married in 2015, we're looking for an apartment to stay together, right? And we found a place to live, and she had the option of the third floor or the fourth floor. And of course, she wants me to be healthy, right? Okay, pick the higher floor, right? And so anyways, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna walk to work, I'm gonna walk home, I'm gonna walk up 4 flights of steps to be healthier, right? And during this whole time, my weight was kind of going down over time, and I just kind of felt unhealthy. I went to the doctor a few times, and when I moved here, I was on statins for high cholesterol. I was on high blood pressure medicine, and so generally just not healthy, right? But I was just carrying over what I had from my life in the U.S. And so as we're together and doing things, we were playing badminton, more active, different things, and I got to a point where I'd say it was maybe 2018 or so. I just kept waking up every day feeling achy. My body hurts. Like kind of that same achy feeling you get when you're gonna get a flu or a cold, like the very beginning, like that's what I would feel every morning waking up. And I'm like, that can't be normal. That can't like, is that what happens to people? Like as you get older, I'm not even that old. I'm in my 30s right at that time. And I just think, what's wrong? Maybe it's the bed. Maybe we need a new bed. I wake up every day. My shoulder hurts, my back hurts. Like, what's going on? And so yeah, it was just kind of at that time in 2018 that I start to do my own research, just kind of like dive into the internet and just trying to look it up. Like, what does it mean when you're achy all the time? And I know as exercise, we do exercise, but it's why do I feel it every day waking up? It didn't make sense to me. And like even when I exercise, like the DOMS effect, right? Which is basically delayed onset muscle soreness, I think. For me, it's always been 2 days after I exercise, not the first day, but the second day. And so I said, okay, and I just started trying to research it, trying to figure out what it meant that why was I sore, every day. And so kind of in that kind of search, like even slightly before that, like a year before that, my wife and we started trying to start a juicing company. So we were, I think I saw the movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, which a lot of people watch and like, wow, you feel better when you drink juice, and so I'd be doing all that stuff, and yeah, I would lose some weight, but the result was every day I still wake up, body aches, just feel like, "Oh, I just don't feel good, right? And so I just like trying to figure that out, trying to like find the solution, like what's the problem, right? And so I did stumble upon, of course, as most people on YouTube stumble onto the different videos of different people. And that time for me, I think it was probably like Eric Berg talking about ketogenic diets, right? And so for me, at the age of 36, it's like, I'm okay, I need to change my diet. Like, this is the first kind of like wake up call as to like what's going on. But I think Eric Berg, he's a chiropractor, right? Like, why is he talking about what you should eat, right? And so even my family history, a little bit, my family in the past, like would say, like, I don't know if we should trust these chiropractors. Like, why? How's that really help? And so, anyway, so I was kind of very skeptical, and I know I've been very skeptical myself over the years in many different areas. I don't like to say skeptical exactly. I'm like cautious, right? I'm trying to become more educated, learn about the theory and then the practice, and how does it all relate, right? And so um yeah, I was just trying to figure it out. And so obviously living in Thailand, like we're gonna be eating different foods, and I can watch people on YouTube and they can give you a diet plan and all these things. I'm like, it doesn't relate to me here. It's unrelatable, And so yeah, just kind of keep searching and searching and things. And so it was about April of 2018 that my wife and I took a trip to the US. So, as teachers here, we have a holiday time in April, and that's the summer holiday in Thailand, and it's called Songkran, right? And so teachers have a few weeks off, and so we traveled back to the US, to California and to Pennsylvania, to spend time with family, right? And so it was on the back of my mind, like, okay, maybe I need to be changing my diet. Like just the idea of it, like, like maybe that'll fix it. And so yeah, just kind of keeping that in my mind, trying to figure things out. But one thing we started doing is, for some reason, my wife had the great idea that we should start running. So as a married couple, like, let's go for a run at the beach. And I'm like, on my holiday? Like, I've never run before for fun ever, right? Like, I played baseball growing up as a kid, and we had to run if for punishment, sometimes, but not like running because I want to run. And so, anyways, we went for a run, and oh man, I was so achy. My body hurt so bad, and of course, we're eating all the standard American food again, and I didn't know what was causing this inflammation, basically. And so we came back from that trip and we both started running. So it was like 2018, we both started getting into running. And so I would be running after school, after my work, and on the treadmill. And if you've ever been to Bangkok before, it's kind of hot, right? So getting into the sport of running and never being a runner makes you kind of wonder, like, why do it in Thailand? Right? Like, it's hot, right? Like, not only hot, but muggy, and it's the rainy season. So I would go to the park and go for runs and run at the treadmill at our condo. Um, I really got into, I would run it on the treadmill, and then I would go to the sauna at our condo and cook it up. So can you imagine, like, you're hot after running and then go into the sauna, right? And so, yeah, I kind of got in the habit or routine of that, and I really enjoyed it. Like, now I love to run when it's hot. Like, I love that feeling, you know. And I think I even got runner's high a couple times, maybe just a couple. They talk about runner's high, right? So anyhow, so that was like 2018 ish, and of course, holiday comes up. We went back to her hometown in the northeast of Thailand, and we go back to eating sticky rice and mango and chicken and all these different things that are definitely not ketogenic. And this time I was still like trying to figure out, what does it mean to be low carb? What does it mean to be ketogenic? And I would say I was probably good at it like Monday through Thursday. I was really good at a ketogenic diet Monday to Thursday. And then Friday we'd go out to dinner together and we, have a cheat meal. Like, I got really good at making these cheat meals, right? Um, which again, like, I look back now and it's like, man, just making it hard. You're making it harder and harder to like really be on track and find a solution. And so we got to dinner on Fridays, on Saturdays, on Sundays, and even after church on Sundays, we got to dinner with a big group. And there's always a birthday, there's always an event, there's always an activity, there's always a reason to celebrate, right? And you know, as a foreigner, hey, in Thailand, like, I can try all these things. It's my excuse. I've never had it before. So um yeah, I was, just trying to play around with it. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people that get into trying to do low carb or ketogenic diet, or maybe in carnivore for that matter, is that you're still trying to find cheats or like ways to compromise or like ways to reward yourself. Like, reward what? Like, what are you trying to reward? And so for me, I felt like that was something that like really like stuck. I mean, if you go back to like years ago when I was a kid, right, in high school or elementary school, my family, we had the routine, the habit of every night after dinner to have a bowl of ice cream. That was our routine. That was what we did. And I didn't know that was bad. Of course, like they say, you can have a handful of potato chips, right? I put as many as I can into that handful, and so many potato chips. Because you're a kid, you just want as much as you want, right? And so anyhow, so yeah, we would have ice cream every night, and like, I didn't know this was bad. In fact, I only found out that it was bad for me. I went to sleep over at a friend's house, and after dinner, I'm okay. Where's the ice cream? And my friend, what? What are you talking about? We don't have ice cream. Like, we might go to Dairy Queen like once in a while, but we don't have it at our house after a meal. So anyhow, so it was all these like little things along the way that helped me to start to realize that, like, I kind of start seeing it over time. Like, hey, that's not healthy. That's not the good way to do it. And over the time, like, I think as many watchers, like, can agree, is you start watching videos on YouTube. I know some people read articles or scholar letters. Sometimes I do that. I do have like some degrees and different things, but so I'm not afraid to read articles and trying to understand it more deeply. But I get lost in the weeds. I'm not biology background. So um, but when I went back to the US and I was feeling horrible and all these things, I realized is that, okay, I need to change my diet. So we started running, getting back into running, and it was like 2018 into 2019. And 2019 was probably probably the best that I've been as an adult, like when it comes to fitness and food, I would say. And my weight went down, to about, I think, 84 kilos or so. And that was I remember at that time I was like came back from my holiday again in April, and I thought, okay, I think I know how to do this ketogenic diet. I'm gonna give it a shot. And happened to stumble across in April of 2019 was Keto Savage, who's like the bodybuilder, and he does a ketogenic diet. And he had, I think it was that time he did a, I think it was a special like 90-day where he called it the keto cut. Have you heard of the keto cut before? Um, and that's basically a very, very strict version of the ketogenic diet, eating 10 grams of carbs, which basically ends up being trace carbs, and you're eating ketogenic diet. So, and then he had a spreadsheet, and I bought all the stuff, right? So I bought the Excel spreadsheet and tracking my macros, and I had a Keto Mojo that I testing my blood every day for my ketone levels. Um, when I was in the U.S., I bought all that, and then I took it with me to Thailand, right? Because they don't sell it here, and people don't like to ship things here that much. So 2019 was that time of me testing those things out, trying to figure all that out. And of course, during all this time, still getting backache, body ache. I didn't know I was in a brain fog, but I was, right? Like many people are. And just trying to figure it out, trying to get my weight down. What is the amount that I can do and get away with, right? I think that's what a lot of people like, well, can I have some fruit or can I have a lot of fruit or whatever, right? You're trying to like, that's why the whole net carbs, yeah, I think comes into play is that, well, if you subtract this and you do this and then the right amount of carbs is there, right? And so anyhow, so that was 2019, and like I said, I got down to my healthiest weight and feeling good. I was running 5K a day every day after work. I would go on the treadmill or go to the park, run 5K a day, and eating ketogenic diet. Everything's great, right? But I'd say one big problem for me, and it was I had a lot of like electrolyte issues, I think. And then number two was that like constipation, right? And so I tell you what, when you have constipation problems, nothing else really matters, right? It's a problem, right? We need to fix this problem, right? And so for me, running a lot, and I'm running and I'm trying to stay hydrated, and all these different things, right? So I did some 5K, 10K races, and then COVID happened, right? So 2020 COVID happened, and everything stopped, right? The world stopped, and I had to stop doing what I was doing. We were quite limited here about what we could do for, um, I would roughly say 2 years, right? So 2020 to 2022 we taught 1 year online, 100% online. We would go, to the grocery store once a week and buy our food. So I couldn't be selective exactly about what I was eating as much. My wife, she eats more of a standard diet, probably like carb heavy. So, but she likes it. She enjoys it. She does what she does. And so during that time, yeah. So I did get COVID at one point, and I remember during that time my wife decided, okay, I'm gonna treat him well. I'm gonna help him, with COVID. She stayed in the other room. She came and gave me food, to eat every day, the healthy, quote unquote, healthy food we're supposed to be eating. And in 10 days, I gained 4 kilo in 10 days. And I just remember like after 10 days, I'm like, okay, I was feeling better. I wasn't really that sick. It was pretty mild. And I stepped on the scale and I went up 4 kilos in 10 days. Could not believe it. And I said, you know what, dear, I love you, but this diet is not working. I can't eat this way. You can do it. Awesome. Do whatever you want, but I can't do this. Like, and I showed her on the scale and she, oh my gosh, like, what happened? I said, it's not going to work for me. I need to eat low carb. Like during this time. And so that was kind of like one catalyst, and I got more strict about it, as I got healthier, and just continually over time, just trying to revise that. And it was really, going back to the original question, how'd you find carnivore? Is that I realized that carnivore has kind of been that thing in the background. the whole time. It's been like this diet, the optimal diet, the most extreme diet, the hardest diet to do. I always had that in my mindset. And so when I did low carb, when I did ketogenic diet, I always thought like those were like hard, but like carnivore was the hardest. It was the most extreme, right? And actually, as I started to research it more, I thought actually it sounds like the most simple of all of them. Like, and I still didn't know it yet because I didn't really experiment and try it too much. So there was a point where I decided, okay, I'm going to um, try doing this. It was like January of 2022. Okay. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do carnivore diet. And at that time, I was like about 95 kilos, so 100, 210 pounds. And I decided to start eating meat. And of course, like still not being disciplined enough, like maybe I'll have some fruit as well, right? Do I need fruit? Am I metabolically healthy? No. But do I like it? Yeah, I like it, of course, right? And so, of course, little bits get in here and there. But now, this is one thing that I discovered was that I got this weird itchiness. Every time I would eat just meat, I would get itchy by like random itchiness. It wasn't a rash. It wasn't red. There's no redness anywhere. And I have pretty clear skin already. So, like, my skin has kind of been the same. But I would get itchy and it was driving me insane. Right. And so, I remember I went, it was like holiday time, Christmas, January time. I went to the doctor. I'm like, maybe it's the soap. Okay, maybe it's the soap that I'm using. Maybe it's a new soap for our clothing. Maybe it's the bed sheets. Maybe it's, people can say allergies, whatever. Right. I was like, no, it only happens after I eat food. I get itchy, which is like mind blowing. Right. And, when that starts to happen, of course, it wasn't serious at the time. It was just really, really annoying, right? And so I went to the doctor and um, without having any blood work done, the two doctors that I saw said they thought it was the beginning of fatty liver disease. And they also said they thought it was the beginnings of gout, basically. And they said that it was, or it could be pre-diabetes. It's like, but that's with no blood work. You're telling me this just on a guess. And I think like it shocked me. I was like, I don't want any of those. Like I thought I was doing better eating, this carnivore diet, right? Or at least that my version of it. And they said, okay, and so we need to do some blood work. Okay, we did blood work. My uric acid for gout was normal, high but normal, right? Fasting A1C was 5.1, normal, and um, fatty liver disease, I don't really know how they measure that, but they did some blood tests and my liver was fine, no problem. And so, of course, number four, the thing they say is, it must be stress. Stress is the answer, right? And so, anyhow, it kind of left me with, I'm not sure what to do. And so I just decided to start keeping a food diary. I think that's like the most basic thing is like, okay, if I eat this, do I get a reaction? If I eat this, do I get a reaction? And I started to trying to figure it out. And so, actually, one of the books that I came across was what's it called? Drop Acid. Drop Acid talks about uh, basically your uric acid levels, which is related to gout, right? And in the book, I think it was the audiobook I was listening to, it was talking about how fructose um, in your body over time. Again, I'm not medically, I don't know the details, but basically talking about fructose could be causing problems like in your liver, right, and things like that. So I thought, okay, well, let me try that now. Let me eat the meat and not eat the fruit. Or in Thailand, again, like we have lots of different types of fruit. One of my favorite is jackfruit, right? So just a very unique flavor, taste, very sweet but tasty, right? I would have two pieces of jackfruit. after my meal, I get itchy all over. And then, okay, next day, and so like clear the slate, basically start again next day. And I would eat one piece of fruit and see the reaction. No itchiness, zero. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Very, very strange, right? And so again, you're always trying to like, what is the most I can do with getting away with it? I think that's kind of the easy mentality, right? And so, anyways, I keep trying to figure it out and figure it out. And of course, I'm trying to do the ketogenic diet, in the basic, kind of the broad terms. And then I start thinking, well, what about the meat that I'm eating? I'm eating pork because it's cheaper in Thailand. And I was using like oyster sauce because in Thailand, I asked my wife to cook something for me. She'll cook it, and it tastes good. I don't know what she does, but she puts it all together, and it tastes good. It's a Thai dish, right? And then I thought maybe it's the oyster sauce that's causing the problem. And so I cut out the fruit, and then I cut out the oyster sauce, and no reaction, right? No effect. And again, I go down this rabbit hole of this book, Drop Acid, starts talking about umami foods, foods that are rich in umami. And I don't know. I mean, it could be related, right? And even the fact that like soy sauce, right? Like I know since about university, I've been either allergic to or sensitive to like straight like soy or tofu. And actually, how I found this out was in the university I went to, studying landscape architecture, and at Penn State University, and we were walking through a soybean field, and we were doing a survey of the land, right? And at the end of the day, I was like, itchy throat. What's wrong with me, right? And later, I asked the professor, or asked the one of the students. I said, like, what do they grow in the field? Oh, those are soybean fields. Like, what? Soybean fields in Pennsylvania? Okay, whatever, right? I was getting a reaction years ago to this soybean field. I didn't know. I mean, how do you know, right? And so fast forward to now is that, I'm experimenting with these different foods. Sometimes I'll go into like a Korean restaurant or obviously like Asian restaurants here, and like it's really you can kind of feel the thickness of the soy in the air, and I do feel a little like scratchiness. I'm like, okay, so I know it could be an allergy. Okay, that's fine, but fortunately, it hasn't been serious or something like that. And so this itchiness was just like really weird and really strange, right? So again, fast forward, went back to America again, and I bought a uric acid tester, right? Like, I want to figure this out. Do I have uric acid issues or gout? So I bought the tester. Of course, they don't sell it in Thailand. They don't sell the CGM for your blood glucose. They don't sell it here either. If you want to get a CGM in Thailand, you have to go to the doctor. They have to prescribe it to you. They have to do it for you, and they will only be allowed to read it. You're not allowed to read it. So, and I've asked doctors, I said, what if people have diabetes? Like, what do they do? And they said, oh, we don't want the people to check themselves. We want to do it as, to be covered for insurance and blah, blah, blah. So I'm okay. Like, I know in America it's quite common, or other countries it's common to get a CGM and test your blood. And, same thing with the uric acid tester. They don't have that. And, they don't have ketone testers, obviously, right? So anyways, what happened was basically I just realized it's like I'm sensitive to these foods. I'm sensitive to pork that has been cured, or like bacon. There's lots of bacon I can't eat here. There's oyster sauce in general, I would say. Soy sauce, certain amounts. I can still have some, but like certain amounts is too much for me. So you just start figuring it out over time, over time, over time. And I think part of my big story here is that you have to figure it out yourself. Like, no matter who you are, you go to the doctor. If you tell them nothing is wrong with you, and they do blood work and they don't really see anything or they're not looking, they're not going to find something wrong with you. So it's kind of like it's up to you. It's up to you to decide. Like if you keep telling them my arm hurts over and over again, they're not going to ask you, do you need a new mattress on your bed? Maybe you need a new pillow. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to talk about medically how to fix you, how to prescribe you, whatever. So I feel like for me is I just have over time just trying to figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. And during this time, of course, my weight's fluctuating. I still feel achy a lot of times. I have this random itchiness that happens, all these things. And so again, basically that was 2022, 2023, trying to figure it out. And then coming into this year, I got to a point where like I've done the research. I've done the background. I've watched thousands of videos, I'm sure, on YouTube. I've seen interviews. I've listened to these doctors talking about medical things that I don't understand, but I try to understand, is it a hobby? Yeah, I guess it's a hobby, right? And at the same time, like, okay, I learn about it and then I try to apply it to my life, right? In some way, right? But I got to a point where I can't talk about it with people anymore. I can't talk because I'm not an example. I wasn't following what I believe, right? So I was doing carnivore or I was doing ketogenic diet Monday through Friday, and on the weekends having cheat meals, and on the holiday having cheat meals and enjoying my life, right? But all the better, I'm still like, overweight. I'm still not healthy. I'm still all the things that I know it's the right diet to do, but I've been doing a yo-yo diet for, you know, 4, 5, 6 years, right? And even with that being said, is that my wife, she's tired of me talking about it. You talk about it all the time, but you don't do it, right? And so, I'm a Christian, and so actually at some point, like during the holiday and here in April, on holidays, I have a lot of time to think and just kind of reflect and things. And I actually came across a scripture in the Bible. It says in James 4:17, the good you have to do, and if you know the good you have to do, and you do not do it, it is sin for that person, right? And so I already know it's the best diet. Like there's nothing better, in my opinion, from what I've seen and what I've heard, the experiences I've heard from people. And everybody is different, right? Everyone has a different case scenario. But for me, it's the best diet for me. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I need to practice what I preach. I can't I can't talk to people about it if I'm not doing it myself, right? And um and also during this whole time I've been researching and trying to understand, and I realized is that I'm getting bored. I'm not learning anything new. Like I'll listen to video, like of course there's the metabolically, the detailed of the cell, like okay, I got it. Okay, I understand. I'll let the doctors figure that out. But for me, like I've heard it all. In some regards, right? But I haven't put it into practice myself. And so basically on end of my holiday time, like holiday with our Thai family, and they eat a lot of seed oils and they eat, sticky rice and fried rice and, all these different foods, fried food all the time, right? And I'm like, man, I need to repent, as they say as a Christian, right? You need to repent from it. And so I decided, like, it just happened to be I was playing in a golf tournament here in Bangkok in April 20th, right? And I decided, so I told my wife, I'm gonna go for 5 days. I'm gonna go play golf. I'm gonna go to the beach. That's what I want to do on my holiday. So she went back to work, and I rented a car, and I decided I'm gonna go play golf, and I'm gonna go to the beach, and I'm gonna take with me my air fryer. I'm gonna take with me my knife and my fork and my salt, and I'm gonna take with me. I bought a cooler, and I'm gonna buy steaks, and I'm gonna put it in there, and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna take a road trip by myself for 5 days, and I'm only allowed to eat carnivore foods. Like I'm going to practice it, right? And I did, right? And so I played golf, maybe 3, 4 times in that week or whatever. And, I was in stealth mode. I would go stay at a hotel, and I would go into a hotel and I look around and I go to the up to the room and make sure there's a balcony that I can like bring my air fryer up and cook my food for dinner, right? So, I've never done it before, and I hear people do it. I heard Jordan Peterson talk about long ago that he did it as well, and he would do that when he does his tours and traveling and things. I mean, even someone like that, I'm sure multi-millionaire, he knows what he needs to eat. It's the right food for him. He needs to eat it, right? And maybe the quality of his meat, his steaks are a lot better than mine, but I'm still doing it too. And so yeah, so I took a steak to eat every day. And another thing, a little thing, but it's a big deal, is that you go stay at a hotel, everyone looks forward to the breakfast buffet, right? Everybody, oh, just eat as much as you can, enjoy. And I thought, the food, what is it really? How good is it? I mean, I'm staying at decent hotels, right? So on the beach, beautiful Thailand, everything, what's nice environment, good experience. And I thought, let me just go there first, check out the food. If I like it, I'll eat it. If not, I'll do my own thing. Like, I can fast, or I can just have coffee and cream and that's it, right? And so yeah, so that's what I did for 5 days. I did that. Played golf a couple days a week, go to the beach a couple days a week, and during that time, and cook stealth at home, or in the hotel room on the balcony. I would cook and clean up and all that. And I understand, like, I'm married, but obviously my wife she's here working. And so for me, like, I understand if you have a family and kids and you have, a wife that wants to go out to dinner, and like, you got to adjust, you got to adapt, right? And at the same time, for me, I wanted to adapt, and so I wanted to try something new, right? And so that was kind of really the beginning of strict carnivore for me. And I've done it so many times before, where like I've done the ketogenic diet, like I know what I need to do to get into ketosis. So that part's not hard for me. I just need to do it, right? And so um, I really didn't have any negative effects, I would say. Like, I kind of know at this point what it takes for me. I was playing golf, and then I love playing golf and eating Snickers bars. Like, what in the world? My dad loved to eat Snickers bars when I was a kid, and I didn't like them as a kid, but growing up now as I'm an adult, now I like Snickers bars and, whatever. And I just realized, like, what is the result of that? Like, what do you get for that? You get a moment of enjoyment, right? And you get the energy boost, and then you get too much sugar in your body, and then, everything happens after that. So, yeah, so for me, I just have learned over time that it's, uh it's a process. And I think obviously everyone's story is different. And for me, like, I've kind of like things have kind of come up that I've had to figure out on my own. And of course, there's tons of resources everywhere, right? And even yesterday, I went to go get blood work yesterday, kind of because I'm having an interview here. I just curious, what are my numbers after 2 months of being on strict carnivore diet? So kind of to give you a little bit of like where I'm at now. So about 70 days in, of strict carnivore. So I've lost 7 kilos in 70 days, which is pretty good. About 86 kilos right now. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I'm actually only about 2 kilos away from my lowest ever as an adult, and that was when I was running 5K a day, right? And so I'm not running obviously right now. I'm just eating the right foods, and brain fog lifted pretty quick. I mean, within about 4 days or so, I could kind of tell, and it only gets better, right? Like, the brain fog goes away, you're more productive. I think, like you've shared before to others, like, it's easy to like not get upset about things as quickly, or um, I've noticed that, so we go with a big group of, out to dinner or whatever, even now, right? And everyone's want to eat, order the food, get the food in your belly as fast as possible. I'm like, "It's okay. I'll serve you guys drinks." So I went over the drink cart, put the drinks in, give to everyone. It's like, "Wow, you're so nice." I'm like, "No, I'm just really I eat or not eat, it's not a big deal." Like, I know the food's not gonna be great for me anyways, and of course, it's nice to serve people and give to them, but, um, I'm not in a hurry to eat, right? Like I used to be, right? Get what you can. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of been the journey, as of lately, yeah.
So, at this point, what's a what's a regular day of eating look like for you?
Yeah, so I still do coffee, and cream in the morning, and it's funny, I didn't start having coffee until I was, like, maybe, like, 25, my first job. So I never had coffee, like, until about 25 years old. And so I kinda wondered now is, like, do I really need it? Like, I'm kind of at this edge or, like, literally right now coming back from work today thinking, "Maybe I don't need coffee." 'Cause, like, what do I really need it for? I have a lot of energy already, you know? Maybe just help me wake up. It tastes good, it smells good. I mean, but through my blood work, I kind of might have to tweak it a bit. So have coffee and cream in the morning, and then for lunch, I've gotten really consistent with having ground beef and eggs, and I'll add in some ghee just because it can get dry because I'm reheating it, and the fat doesn't hurt, right? And ghee is the best for me. It doesn't upset my stomach. And then for dinner, it's mostly a steak. I'll buy a steak, and it's quite amazing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know how many grams will fill me up. I mean, obviously, depending on how thick the steak is or how much fat is in the steak, but I need like 250 to 300. That's kind of big enough for me. If I need a little more, then maybe I cook a couple eggs with it. So I either have steak, which definitely by far is the most satiating. And people always say, like, "Do you get tired of steak?" No. Why would I get tired of steak? Tastes great, right? Um, and then the second option is like, because it is more expensive, much more expensive in Thailand for steak, for beef, is that I'll make like pork chop and chicken wings. I I mean, I've tried just chicken wings. I could eat like a lot and it doesn't do anything for me. But if I do a pork chop and chicken wings and I do it in the air fryer, it's fine for the day, but I do notice, and this is again these little tweaks is that if I have a meal like that, the next day I'll be hungry, more hungry. So I can tell my body is definitely like, using the energy well when it comes to beef. Um, and so I've never been a person liking to eat the same thing all the time. But once I just like made an effort and did it, because lunch is hard when you're out working every day. And as a teacher, I can't really be going out, and I don't want to. It costs money, right? And you don't get the high quality that you want. Is that like I need something quick and easy to do? So I'll cook up 2 days for lunch, and then I'll kind of set that, and I'll take it to school with me. And everyone kind of like makes fun of me at work at this point. Like, what are you eating today, Nick? It's like, well, it's kind of the same as yesterday, Um, and so yeah,
So,
so that's kind of my meals at this point.
but as you say, like, you always look forward to it, right? I mean, whether it's steak or it's ground beef or whatever it is, and until you've actually done carnivore, you can't understand the feeling of not getting bored with the same food all the time, right?
Yeah, it's. I had a conversation today with a coworker about it too, and like, don't you get tired of it? Like, aren't you hungry? Like, what do you eat for a snack? I'm like, I don't need a snack. Like, I'm not hungry. In fact, I've noticed in the past 2 weeks or so, I'm not even that hungry for lunch. And like, I have actually extra food in the at school right now that I haven't touched, and it's like there's a couple days where I'm like, I just didn't eat lunch. I wasn't hungry, which is like unheard of for me to like skip a meal. Like, who does that, right? So yeah, I feel like it's something is changing a bit where it's like, and it could be related to that my steaks in the evening have gotten a little bit bigger just based on what I've bought. They're like 350 grams instead of 300. So I think there might be my body's trying to even out a little bit. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's night and day. Like I don't really get tired of it as long as I have salt. Like that's actually another thing that um I don't say worried about, but I know so much negative connotations with salt, right? And so I feel like I eat a lot of salt. Like I often wonder, like, am I eating too much salt? And I have somebody at church that he's way more educated than I am about it. And he's like, "Well, what's that based on? Like, why do you think it's too much? Like, where's that come from?" I'm like, "I don't know. It just feels like it's too much, you know?" But honestly, I like my food with steak or with salt, right?
Yeah.
And I'm happy. I'm happy with that.
I'm the same. I'd like to know your opinion on this, but I kind of feel like what's happened is the food companies and the marketing that they run, uh, over the years, it just gets into our head that everything has to be balanced and, one thing offsets another thing and whatever, and we just get this picture in our mind about how much is too much of something, and nothing quantifies that, right? And it's kind of, I feel like it's this kind of insidious way of marketing because
Yeah.
it like it almost poisons your mind with an idea that's not true, and you're left like the result is that we're left like having this picture of what we think is the correct thing to eat, which is kind of completely opposite of to what we actually should be eating.
Yeah, like the whole word balance. Like and it's kind of the circle conversation that you have with people, and I have to be careful because I don't want to be that guy in the office that's like annoying everybody about what I eat and what I think is the best diet and all these things. But I've had a couple, I don't want to say heated conversations, but like people are like quite defensive. Like I was thinking about it this today is like people like have a strong defensive conversation about politics, about religion, and about their diet. Right? And so like, what do you eat? I'm like, well, eat a balanced meal. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is balanced? Like it's based on what you believe, really, in my opinion. Like, it's the same thing like exercise, like, actually I didn't mention to you, but is actually I think one of the first videos I saw of yours was when you were talking to Anthony from Lean 7, right? And I mean, it was in my road trip. I was driving, listen to music, listen to YouTube videos, whatever, right? And the same idea, like, what is the right exercise to do? What is the right amount of fitness to do? And like, I've always felt guilty that I don't exercise enough, always, and of course I'm a bit still overweight even now, but like, I I don't know, like I don't have as much energy as the other person, and going to the gym every day, like I'm worn out, like, after a whole day of working, it's, and I tried this actually because I have a back problem. My back like curves a bit more than it should. And the doctor suggested that I go do yoga, right? And so I bought a nice gym membership, a nice fitness membership. I went there, pay a lot of money to go to the yoga. My back never felt good, you know? And I was going 2, 3, 4 times a week. And at the end of it, I'm exhausted. Same thing when I would run 5K a day, right? It's healthy, right? Like you got to have a good balance, not only your food, but also your exercise. And I was running a lot, but I was so worn out. I was so tired all the time. And then of course you're not patient. You're um, it wears you out. You need to recover at some point. And so, like I said, with that video about one set to failure, right? I've been doing that. So like for the first time in my life, like I've not had to feel any guilt about going to the gym you know, so I go to the gym, like say, for example, on a Sunday, and I do my one set to failure, like do the warm ups and kind of like the video talked about. And I do 5 different exercises. And when I'm sore, I don't go back to the gym and I don't feel bad about it. Right. And I just wait and I'm resting and I'm recovering, and it goes the same thing with food. Balance what? Like, from my experience, is that I feel like the one of the biggest takeaways is that in 2019-ish, I did the Keto Made Simple by Dr. Eric Westman from Duke University. I did his master class, right? And it's a course that you do, and you learn a lot about things. I was trying to troubleshoot. That was when I was troubleshooting the electrolyte problem and the constipation problem. That's literally the only reason I did that whole class, right? And my takeaway from that, and I actually really like his material because he's not trying to like he's pretty straightforward about what he's teaching, right? It's obesity clinic, so it's a little different context. But he was pretty direct about it. But at the end of the day, it's about what like you are doing to improve yourself, right? So I know for me what it was is that maybe I'm having too many trace carbs because I still do like lemon in my water. So maybe it's 10, 20, 30 grams of carbs at that time, right? And then the constipation thing, they're suggesting about drinking milk of magnesia every day. And I think that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why do you need to do that too with the diet that I'm eating? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if if keto or carnivore is really the right one for you, shouldn't you have to like not have to do all this extra stuff? Not have to drink pickle juice for your electrolytes? Like, something's off. And so I actually still would, in most cases, I would recommend Dr. Westman's page 4, diet for people, right? I would still recommend it. But at the same time, like, you got to ask yourself, like, why do you have to do these little extra things, right? Why is that necessary? And so for me, I kind of like, okay, let's get rid of that, and okay, let's do carnivore and see how that goes. And yeah, so I think it's been a very you learn on your own. You try to figure it out, and what works, what doesn't. People talk about balance all the time. What does that mean? Like when I go to the gym, when I'm sore, you probably shouldn't be still lifting weights. You should probably be recovering, right? And so I've done that. So I've gone to the gym, roughly every 4 days or so. I do one set to failure, right? Like, I did actually have some questions about that because what if my chest is sore but my legs are not? Like, do I go to the gym or not? But I generally got the idea that you rest, right? You rest until you're recovered and then you do it again. And yeah, did I see strength improve? Yeah, of course. And for me, what I realized is that um, when I did the running and the keto diet, I lost a lot of weight. I got smaller. My whole body just shrunk, right? But I didn't maintain muscle at that time. Because think about it, you're on a ketogenic diet, you're not eating a lot of protein. The difference is now is that I'm eating a lot of protein and I'm able to build muscle or maintain muscle a lot more now, for sure. Right. And so of course, even the recovery is generally faster. I don't have those aches anymore. Of course, I don't have brain fog. I don't have um, I'm not itchy, all those little things. And
And
my blood work,
constipation
shows
is
it too.
gone?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
100% gone. Actually, was it Paul Mason's video talk about constipation? Like, man, I love that video so much. He talks about like the result of people that like have a fiber diet and a little bit of fiber and no fiber, and you could hear the audience. No fiber? And the result was no problems, 100% gone. I love that video because it's so true. Because people ask me all the time, "What about fiber?" And I turn the question back to them like, "Why do you need it? What do you need it for? It's not digestible. It's a carbohydrate, not digestible in your body." Well, it's good for your body. Okay. Okay,
I,
right. I
I, I
don't need
just
it.
I love the line when you say, "Why do you need fiber?" Well, it's an essential nutrient. Well, firstly, it's not a nutrient, and secondly, it's not essential. So again, why do we need it?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
I don't know. You know.
Yeah, well, what about the nutrients? And it's like, I have who's it? Judy, Nutrition with Judy, Judy Cho's book about carnivore diet, right? And like I try to show people that a little bit, like, well, look at all the nutrients you can get from eating meat. They're like, really? Like, yeah. So I have my little bit. I try it here and there. It's tricky because you can't force anyone to do it, and even if you do force someone to do it, they're not going probably not going to do it right, and then they're not going to maintain it, and then what's the point, right? So
Yeah, people have really come to it on their own terms at the time that's right for them. You know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
but
and and it, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna ask, how is your wife with it?
she she's she's supportive. Number one, she's supportive. Number two, she is. I think she's just waiting for the results. Like she doesn't want to say anything, good or bad. I know, like she did ask me the other day. She's like, "How long are you gonna eat meat?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can't answer that question." Like, in my opinion, I feel like my body is still healing, and so like, you get to the point where you're just like, I don't know what ideal body weight is for me. I've never been fit, right? I was one of those kids that growing up, your mom or dad says you're husky. You're not fat, you're husky, right? Like, okay, like, but what does it mean to be fit? I have no idea. Like, and honestly, that's the truth. Like, I don't know how long it will take for me to hit the optimal whatever, and I guess that's what we're kind of always looking for, right? And so, how long when am I going to do the diet? I don't know. Is it forever? I don't know. I can't say I'm going to do it the rest of my life because I only really learned about it, roughly 6 years ago. I only knew where Thailand was on the map 10 years ago. Before I moved to Thailand, I didn't know where Thailand was, and so I can't say forever, but what I can say is that I'm learning a lot now, and maybe at some point I can like practice I can preach what I practice, right? So if I'm getting fitter, I'm probably the best example of it, right? And so whether it's at church or at work or around friends or family, for my wife, I think she just kind of wait and see what happens. And I've tried to get her to eat some meat, like she doesn't like chicken, which is fine. Pork is really popular here. It's just cheaper, right? And so she knows I spend a lot of money on eating meat. Even today, she was asking if she could use the ground beef that I bought. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, and it's like, because it's not cheap. It's premium, like what I can afford, because I would say my diet is about double what it would cost normally to like just eat in Thailand for me personally. And I tell you what, that's still a number one drawback, number one negative as for doing carnivore diet for me in Thailand is just it's expensive. I know people say your medical bills are less or you don't eat snacks. Yeah, that's true, but you're still buying food and eating it every day,
Yeah,
and
and
so
if the price is inflated for beef, it's really hard, right?
I've thought about like, I live in the city, so I kind of just have to get what I can get. But I've thought about if we move outside of the city, maybe I can own a cow. I don't know. Like, is that even possible? I know they do it in America. They do it in Australia. I don't know if they do that in Thailand, right? So we'll see. We'll see what
I
happens as we
would
go. You know,
I'm just guessing it would probably be easier in Thailand because there's probably less regulation around that kind of thing, I imagine.
the problem is I don't know if you've ever seen a cow in Thailand. You gotta get the right one. There's not much meat on them. So a lot of meat here is imported from Australia, New Zealand. so which basically pushes the price up, right? So, but
I see.
they have everywhere. So, but pork is the most popular, and chicken as well, and I mean eggs are about 4 baht. So if a baht is, you know, 37 baht and $1. So the eggs are pretty cheap, right? And so, you can eat as many eggs as you want. Pretty cheap diet to do that, right? So
Nice. So if you were giving someone advice about how to get started, what's the top tip you'd give them?
I know it's cliche, but people say start with a why, right? And why do you want to do it? And what is your goal? Like, if you have uh a lot of people start because they want to lose weight, right? That's pretty common. But then there's a lot of people that have some sort of autoimmune issue or whatever. It starts with that. But then I would say is like, okay, like I hate to say do your research first. Like first barrier to entry is like, okay, let's get you on low carb. What does that mean, low carb, right? For you, right? And again, another huge thing for me was that figuring out what is your carbohydrate threshold. And so when I did the keto cut back in whatever it was, 2019, like I was learning about what does it mean to be in a carbohydrate threshold. So for someone like me, compared to you, compared to my wife or whoever, um, different people can handle a different amount of carbohydrates. And Dr. Eric Westman from Duke, he talks about that a lot, where it's like, there's different levels that you can be at. And so it's really start with the why, but secondly is like, okay, what is low carb to you? Because it might be 50 grams a day. That might be good enough. Or 100 grams, like that's like cheating to me, right? 100 grams is cheating. But for some people 100 grams is good enough, you know. But it's kind of like get started, and then go from there. So but if you're trying to heal things, like I have sympathy for people, because even for my little problems, and I know, like, I did blood work and my HDL is low. I'm like, why is it low? I don't understand, and I'm trying to go back and watch videos and trying to understand what I can do, and so it's a process. Everyone has to learn. I've had a few people, friends, start to ask me, kind of get like general advice, mostly about cholesterol and LDL, right? So I have a whole different perspective about that, as the carnivore community does, um, but yeah, I think there's what is your carb threshold? Because that's really important. It's if you can handle 100 grams of carbs a day and you feel good, if you're exercising a lot. I think that's why, like Paul Saladino and all those, they kind of like, wow, you can eat fruit and honey too, and it's like, yes, but he is metabolically healthy. That's the difference, right? Are you metabolically healthy? Am I? No, I'm not. I'm still not. I know I'm not. And so that's a huge part, I think, as well. And so you can take his advice and honey and fruit and all this, but if you're not metabolically healthy, it's not going to help you, right?
Yeah, agreed. Everyone's like you got to find your level. I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
so
as for me, go ahead.
no, no, no,
I'll say,
please.
as for me, the whole HDL topic, right? It's like, again, like I have to go back and look at. I just watched a couple videos today. Who's it? Like Dr. Robert Sykes, the carb addiction doc, right? I had an appointment
Ah,
with him at one point.
Chavez. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. And I had an appointment with him at one point, and then like the bill came. I'm like, maybe not. I'll figure it out myself. It's out of my budget. Um, but anyways, I watched his videos, and he says everything in the video. You just have to watch enough to find out, right? And so he was saying for HDL is that it should be ideally above 75. And how do you get lower HDL? What I saw was he was saying to do more fasting, increase your fasting window, keep eating saturated fats, and it takes time, right? And so that was like, okay, I guess I need to start doing some fasting. I don't want to, but I'd like to see some better numbers,
Yeah.
So
It'll fasting feels nice once you're doing it though. It's scary going in, but it once you start once you get into the middle of it, it feels good.
yeah, and I wonder too, like I said, in the past 2 weeks, I've noticed I can go way longer not eating, and I wonder if it's my body's like saturating itself with nutrients at this point, like maybe, right? And then I can actually go longer now. And so like even today, like I ate lunch today, but I probably didn't have to eat lunch, probably, right? Like I could have just eat dinner tonight instead, right? And so I kind of wonder if that's maybe kind of I'm working into that range now where it's like I can do it now that maybe I've eaten enough nutrients now that my body's getting used to it now, and then fasting might be easier, maybe. I don't know.
So, Nick, do you have any way of reaching out to you, any social media or anything like that?
Yeah, obviously, I kind of go by Teacher Nick Thailand here and amongst my students, right? And so I do have a Facebook, Teacher Nick Thailand, where I kind of a lot of it is teaching related. But I do throw personal stuff in there as well. For being a teacher in Thailand, I've been doing it for 10 years now. And the secondly is my wife and I, like, we do have a YouTube channel. We don't do it as much as we originally had hoped to, but I think it's ebb and flow, right?
Mm.
And we do have that account. It's learning by doing with Nick and Anna, right? And I could send that to you later.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and again, learning by doing, right? Like that's literally what we're doing. That's literally what I'm doing is learning as I go, and we're doing it, right? We're trying to see what happens in real life. And as I'm a teacher now for 10 years, she's been a teacher here for probably like 15, 20 years. We do hope to leave Bangkok and go to the northeast of Thailand and open our own language school or a small school or even like I have some other ideas about like it's called authentic learning, which is again learning by doing, where you have, which is kind of funny, have your own farm or teach kids through like active learning and things. So maybe one day we'll have that sort of thing, um, and maybe yeah, we'll have something that we can do kind of at a bigger scale. But for if people want to contact me, they can go on the Facebook at the Facebook account Teacher Nick Thailand, or check out our YouTube as well.
No worries. I'll link to both of those in the description. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on today, Nick, and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you and a chance to share the story, and I do look forward to what else, everyone else that you're talking to, and I'm sure there's a lot of great stories to share.